We are again, folks. This is Brother Peter with tidbits from the Word. We are in the book of Deuteronomy. In studying the book of Deuteronomy, we've rehearsed where God gave the second commandments. The first commandments were given back 40 years ago, and then here we have the second writing on the same commandments, but the children of Israel had slipped. They have gone away from the Lord, and the Lord opened the floodgates and the doors for another country or other countries to come and take them over. I believe in the United States of America today, we're at the doorstep of that. Do you know the most precious thing in a man's life should be his wife? Second to God, his wife. Yes, a family's good, but his wife is his companion, his helpmate. After you have the children and you start raising a family, and the family gets out and they're on their own, a man is just left with his helpmate. Now, God's design was that a man and his wife would live content with each other and be happy and have a good and happy relationship in their older years. And the woman of thy youth you are supposed to still be ravished with and enthused with, which I am with my wife. This year will be 50 years of marriage, and I wouldn't trade even the worst day of our marriage. But in chapter 28 of the book of Deuteronomy, and in verse 30, it said, "Thou shalt betroth or marry a wife, and another man shall lie with her. Thou shalt build an house, and thou shalt not dwell therein. Thou shalt plant a garden or a vineyard, and shalt not gather the fruit thereof," or the grapes. Now, what he's saying is, because you've disobeyed me, and because you've gone so far away from the God of heaven, the God that created the universe, the God that made man, the God that desired for man to have everything that was good, but because we've gone away from him and not followed his routine and his commandments, and Jesus Christ came and died on the cross for you and I, that we may have eternal life, and that we may follow his will and his way and have a good life on this very pleasant earth. But instead, we've gone away. Now, in America itself, and that's where I'm talking about today, we have brought a curse upon ourselves. To the wife that we marry, another man is lying with that wife. What has happened? We have let God slip away. We have slipped away from God, and because we have, he has allowed this curse to come upon this United States of America. The second thing we see in that verse is a man will build a house and somebody else will live in it. How many in this year, 2011 and 12, in these last couple years, how many people have lost the houses that they built and now somebody else is living in them? How many of them have planted a garden at that house and have a beautiful place, and somebody else is eating the fruit thereof? He said here in verse 31, "Thine ox shall be slain." What he's saying here is what you have in your possession for an animal or whatever, somebody else is going to slay it and take it away from you right in front of your very eyes. "And thou shalt not eat thereof. And thine donkey or thine ass," he says here, "or that which is yours, shall be violently taken away from before your face, and shall not be restored to thee." If you have more than one, if you have several things, if you have a flock, say you have a herd of cattle, you have a group of horses, or you have a farm or a ranch. It said it's going to be taken away and given unto thine enemy, and thou shalt have none to rescue you or to rescue them. You won't be able to rescue them. You won't be able to come against the foe that is against you. It's just like right now. We live in a small town, and in that small town, if you do not pay your taxes, that town or that city will put a paper on your house that they now own it, and you must vacate, and they're going to take everything that you have, or a city, or even the state, or even the federal government. We are living in a very, very dangerous day. We're living in a day when our own country is all out for money, and that's all there is. And they don't care who you are, where you live, or what your circumstances are. It matters not to them. They have a piece of paper that says you owe us. And if you owe us, we don't care anything about your circumstances. We have the right to vacate you, take what you have. Now that's your own country. Now here, what the Lord was talking about was he had delivered these folks to another country. And that is fixing to happen, by the way, I believe, in and to the United States of America. Let's look at verse 32 in chapter 28. Now he says here, thy sons and thy daughters shall be given unto another people, and thine eyes shall look and fail with longing for them all the day long, and there shall be no might in thine hand. Do you know what I see today? I see today the sons and the daughters of the men and the women around me given to the dope crowd, the tattoo crowd, the crowd of those who are opposite from God and opposite from Jesus Christ, and there are another people other than those who serve God, and our sons and daughters are ending up in the hands of those people, and you can't reach them. You can't say anything to them. You can talk to them until you're blue in the face, but you will not deliver them. They will not be delivered back in to your hand, the majority of them. It says, the fruit of thy land and all thy labors, in verse 33, shall a nation which thou knowest not eat up, and thou shalt be only oppressed and crushed away. Listen, we have other nations coming upon us right now. In the very area where I live, we had another big nation from way over in another continent come over here, an anti-God nation, a nation who does not believe in the God of heaven, do not believe in the only true God and living God. They believe their little gods stand in their corners, in their houses. They believe they are them gods themselves. And by the way, they have no respect for another of their own kind. If something happens, they mind not to put them in the ground or put them away and say, you are no longer a person to us. We'll have nothing to do with you. You are out. You're out of the picture. And this is the type of people we have these are the godless people of this world that care not about another person, even of their own kind. We have the situation in China, for instance, where they work children. They keep them in these little cubes at night. They feed them just enough to keep them alive. They don't give them any information about the world or what they're doing. And they're working on one little part, say for the very computer that I'm speaking on today. They work on that one little part. That's all they know. They've never seen a whole computer put together. They've never seen a whole of anything of what they do. All they know is that one little thing they do. And 18 to 20 hours a day, they sit there and they work on that with just enough food to stay alive and just enough shelter to stay out of the weather, and sleep for a few hours, 4 to 6 hours a day, and then right back to the grind, day after day after day. Slaves, they're called slaves. The Chinese people say, well, we pay them. Yeah, what do they pay them? And where do they spend their money? They never spend a nickel of it. They don't spend a dime of it. They don't have any off time. They're there all the time. And what money they paid, they have to pay for their dwelling. Listen, it is human slavery. We're coming to that day in the United States of America. All one of these gigantic, huge countries that we owe all the money to has to do is to come over here and occupy. Just come and occupy. They can do the same thing to us that the tax man, that to us as a country, that the tax man does to us as individuals when he comes knocking on your or my door. Now, we notice that in verse 33, the fruit of thy land and all thy labors shall a nation which thou knowest not eat up, and thou shalt be only oppressed and crushed all the way. You'll be crushed all the way. He's saying that the end is fixing to come upon you as a nation. Now, he was talking to the small nation of Israel at that time. But numbers matter not. When a large country comes in, it doesn't matter how many numbers you've got in the United States, they'll overrun them. And our time has come and gone, and we will see you next time. As for today, we must close here right now.